This is how we've grown our agency to over $100 million. And we didn't do it overnight, took a lot of time, and we're still learning, but these are the processes that work for us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Annuity Fundamentals. I am your host today, Kylie Malat. Today we are joined by the one and only Roy Snarr. He is phenomenal. I got the chance to meet him last week at 8% Nation, so shout out to Cody Askins for having us both there. Roy is with annuityproducers.com, so he not only is a professional at his craft, but he also helps train agents to do what he does and be the best of the best, right, of selling annuities and cross-selling. So, Roy, with your permission, let's get into a little bit about what we heard at 8% and kind of go from there.
Yeah, thanks so much. I had a great time there at 8%. I love speaking on the stages to try to help other agents out accelerate their career, because when I first started, it took me a long time. There's all these success stories of people who get their insurance license, they hit six figures, they knock it out of the park. Well, that happened to me, but it took me 5 years, right? And there's a lot of folks that do it, in a very short period of time. And so I like to always share my message with agents to be like, look, here's some things that I've learned the very, very hard way. Because when I first started, this is almost 14 years ago, there weren't as many educational tools and resources such as this podcast available, right? It was more grassroots learning. And so what I quickly realized is that I had this ability to cross-sell my book of business. And a lot of agents who want to get into the annuity space have already experienced with Medicare and life insurance. It's very rare that somebody, at least in my experience, gets their license and goes right into annuity sales, right?
Yeah,
they have to start
absolutely.
somewhere, right?
Yep.
And most of them are Medicare. And with the Medicare transitioning happening now with CMS's new rules and all kinds of changes, a lot of agents are like, maybe I should look at diversifying my book of business, right? And this is what I did personally. I started off selling mortgage protection. I never got into the Medicare side of things. I only did life insurance, but it was final expense, mortgage protection. And I did a boatload of it. And I became successful at it after many, many years of banging my head against the wall. But then I quickly realized I have this ceiling I'm reaching. There's only two ways to increase your revenue in the insurance space, either more policies or bigger policies, or you can do more bigger policies, right? And I was like, okay, I need to sell 20 to 30 final expense mortgage protection policies every single month just to make this six-figure income. And then I did my first annuity rollover. It was almost by accident. I was helping this teacher out, and I quickly realized that commission, it was roughly around $8,000. I rolled over this policy, and I was like, wow, I didn't have to deal with medical underwriting. I didn't have to deal with, all these background and health checks or anything like that. It was instantaneously issued virtually compared to life insurance, so the time frame was shorter. And I didn't have to worry about the chargeback risk that a lot of life insurance has. And I was like,
I can so appreciate that, Roy, because I've been in that space as well. And you're right. When you get into this, depending on who your IMO is or who's bringing you in, sometimes they set you up with false expectations. Right? Like, I hit this my first year, so you are too. Well, we're different. Our sales styles are different. Maybe I'm not the best salesman, but I'm a really good educator.
Right.
So things are different, and comparison is the thief of joy. So as soon as you start comparing yourself to other people, it's almost like shooting yourself in the foot. Why am I not at Roy's level? Well, Roy's been doing this for more than 3 minutes. That's why you're not at Roy's level. So don't compare yourself to Roy, but have Roy be someone that you're looking up to and you want to get to. But so I appreciate you saying it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
I mean, there's 8% nation for a reason, right? Only 8% of insurance agents actually make it. So it's important to say, all right, where am I in this process, and how can I have longevity in this career? So I deeply appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, thank you. I always like to instill that, because a lot of agents, they'll try to transition from a full-time job into insurance, because unfortunately there's a lot of groups out there that say you can do it, the power of your mindset, and yeah, sure you could. And there's something to be said about putting your back up against the wall. However, it has to be balanced. And what we generally advise agents and talk to them about is like, look, until your sales are consistently creating almost twice the amount of your W-2 wage for a period of 6 months, then you could consider transitioning. Because what happens is an agent, we all get lucky, and they'll roll over a big policy. They'll sell a big life insurance. They sold a boatload during open enrollment on Medicare, and they think that they can just hop in full time. And that's not how this business works. You have to give it time to build that consistency. So we always educate our agents and other agents to be like, look, take your time. You had your whole life, your whole career. You're not going to become an overnight millionaire in this business. It takes quite a bit of time. And so we always cautious on that too, because unfortunately with TikTok and YouTube and everything else, they see this 20-year-old kid driving a Ferrari. It's probably not even his, he's renting it, and they're like, I sell insurance and you can do it too, and do it in less than a year. It's like there's these unrealistic expectations being set, but the reality of it is, coming from someone who's actually done it, it does take time, and you need to be methodical about it.
Absolutely. And I mean, Ryan Anderson was actually my manager for the first year when I was in this business, and he gave me some of the best advice. He said, Kylie, your first year is like crawling over broken glass.
Yes.
Because you're learning the business, you're learning a whole sales cycle, you're trying to get your leads nailed down, and you're doing Medicare, long-term care, short-term care, life insurance, and financial services. So it just felt like two fire hoses just pointed right at my face, and I was just supposed to stay above water. So I think setting up those expectations, it's a lot easier to say, hey, this is what to expect, rather than say, oh yeah, I should have warned you. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I'm the same way. I like to say, hey, nothing worth it comes easy. So if you stick with it and you have the long game plan, not, oh, I'm going to make $500,000 in my first 6 months because so-and-so did it. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. Right. But it is good to set up realistic expectations for success, and you can't just do it overnight. Nothing happens overnight. I'm sure you didn't get on stage at 8% because you started 3 months ago.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then, like, we tell people, like a lot of these agents, I was like, look, if you're getting into life insurance and Medicare, in your first year, if you hit 50,000, you are crushing it, right? Yeah. I mean, it takes time. And to hit the six-figure mark, it is realistic within a 36-month period. Yeah. Anything shorter than that, maybe you're hyper-aggressive or you have a unique marketplace, but you have to give this thing time, and then it perpetuates itself. And even when you start making millions of dollars a year, there's still also a lot more expenses that come along with that, too. That's the other thing I feel that a lot of agents don't do, is invest back into themselves. And that's what we chose to do here, and we still do today. The majority of all of our revenues, and even from the beginning, was poured right back into the business in order to create that consistency of lead flow coming in, because that's what
Absolutely.
You need.
You got to feed the machine, right? I always tell my agents that too. Hey, just because you made that commission, that means, yes, that goes to pay some of your bills, but you also need to feed the machine and get more and just generate more for you and put it back into yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of agents, they don't put money away for taxes. They spend the money right away. It's like, look, you have to keep putting money back into there, because we cannot control if someone's going to buy or not. We can help influence them to do so through education. But ultimately, the only thing that we can really control is our output, right? And you need money to create output in order to reach out to more people. And that's what I really focused on in the beginning. I said, look, if I could just make just enough to barely survive and put the rest of it back into leads. I used to max out credit cards and just get crazy with it, because I wanted to have a full calendar. Because if I had a full calendar, I wasn't too concerned if somebody said, I want to think about it, or I'm not quite ready. I'd be like, no problem at all. I got like 40 other people to see. You call me when you're ready. That's the best place to be in, because then you come from a place of trying to really help somebody without having commission breath, because we've all been there. And if you have a sparse calendar and you're stressed out financially because you decided to go full time into it too soon, people will sense that and they're not going to buy from you.
Yeah, there is desperation. It does. It comes across. Even when you think it's not, it does. And they can feel it. And there's just a sense of urgency that you present in that situation that has no business being there. I mean, when you're helping someone get it set up with Medicare or life insurance or annuities or financial services, whatever that may be, that takes time. That takes finesse. That takes a plan. And rarely does that happen in 30 minutes.
Exactly. That's the other part of it,
ever.
too. Like when you want to get into the bigger items, right? And you want to get into the annuity space, you want to get into the larger long-term care asset-based planning, it's not a transaction. You have to build a relationship. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed, even selling life insurance, which is relatively transactional when it comes to mortgage protection and final expense. I love building relationships, and I'd spend way too much time with people. I'd spend hours selling them a small little policy, but I really enjoyed what I was doing. And so when you want to get into the bigger ticket items, you have to develop this relationship style versus a transaction style. Because, like, let's be real, with Medicare, you're not really selling Medicare. You're helping people enroll in options they have no other choice to take, right? And so it's different than starting to say, hey, look, I just met you. Kylie, let me get $1 million from your retirement and put it into this really cool thing called an annuity. It'll all work out, I promise. That's not going to happen right away, okay? You got to build this relationship up. You got to build the trust. You got to show that you're educated. And so it takes more time, but you are dramatically rewarded for that time, energy, and effort through the compensation models that this industry allows to have. And it's all done through not charging the client and helping them preserve their retirement. So it's a complete win-win. But like anything else, it takes time to become, skillful in the annuity space.
I love what you said, that Medicare is an enrollment that they need. But don't you love those people turning 65 because they need you, right? They need you because they don't, they might have a baseline understanding of Medicare, but do they know the nitty gritty? No. So when I started in Medicare. So that was like my tryout, right? I would do a proper company introduction, tell them exactly what I do, and then I would get into the fact finding. And with Medicare, you need to know their assets to know what plan that they qualify for. So getting into the money is just a natural piece about it. And then you go into education about Medicare. And once you do that and you get good and you perfect your craft and you know the ins and outs, then you can expand, right? That's when I expanded into the annuity space, because it was just a natural progression. Like, hey, I'm also retiring and I have a 401k and I'm not really sure what to do with it. Those are like music to my ears. You don't know what to do with it? No worries. I do. I can help you. I can give you some different concepts, some different education, some different solutions that you might not even have heard of before in your working years, but things are different in your retirement years. So let's get into it. So I didn't buy a single annuity lead until last year. All of my annuity production came from my Medicare leads. So
100%.
When people are like, how do I do this? How do I do this? Honestly, you got to just change your language a little bit, make a few adjustments, and you can get into the money. And then it's a seamless transaction between cross-selling from Medicare to life to annuities.
Yeah, we tell a lot of agents, you're sitting on the gold mine. You have your own book of business that the people that know, like, and trust you. The least expensive way to get into the annuity space is by cross-selling your own book or start selling life insurance and Medicare. Because if you don't have any fundamentals in insurance, it's very difficult just to sell an annuity. You have to have that foundation. That's what we coach people on all the time. I tell agents this, here's a gold nugget for everyone. If you sell Medicare, you have a book of Medicare, just send one email out and say, hey, guess what? There are some things in your plan that are not covered. I want to have a conversation with you to tell you what your plan will not cover so there are no surprises. When can we chat? How many responses do you think you're going to get? Because all these other agents, all they're doing is telling you about silver sneakers, they'll do your dry cleaning, all the bells and whistles, but nobody's really talking about what it will not cover. And that's long-term care, that's asset protection, that's income planning. None of that happens with Medicare.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many gaps in Medicare, so that's why it's really important to be a good educator when it comes to Medicare, to fill in those gaps for people. And then, because unfortunately, the number one reason for bankruptcy in America is what? Medical bills. So that's a huge deal when it comes to, well, I'm working so I can still pay that. Well, when you're in retirement, you're no longer working, you're on a fixed income. If something catastrophic happened to you and you weren't set up on the right plan, there goes your 401k that you said you were going to travel with. Now you're paying your medical bills. So let's protect you from your health to your wealth. That's what we do as asset protectors. That's what you do. That's what I do. That's what we're trying to do, is help that client say, hey, congratulations. Like, you've made it to retirement. Now let's let the next 30 years be something comfortable and just as exciting and as enthralling and hopefully stress-free for you as it can be.
And it's to your point earlier, in order to do the proper job of life insurance and Medicare planning, you have to know their assets. How are you possibly going to explain to them how much Medicare is going to cost if you don't know what the IRMA limits are, if you don't know what their RMDs are? You are already gathering this, or at least should be, And then the other missing piece is like, hey, look, here are some solutions to that. Like a lot of people think Medicare is free. Well, as soon as they find out what Part B is and their prescription drug plan, their supplement, all the other ancillaries, they quickly realize there's an expense here. Well, guess what? How are you going to pay for that expense? What if there was a way to help cover that expense on a guaranteed basis that helps fulfill your RMDs? Well, what is that? Well, here we go into the annuity talk. There's so many different angles that you can help people and door openers to the annuity sale when you have a pre-existing book of business, and agents don't realize that. But as long as you become educated on just a few little power phrases, that's all you really need. And then you take the time to get educated on the plans and the processes, and then you're able to help serve your clients.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So, brand new agent, they've been in the business, let's say they've been in the business a year. So they've got kudos to them for lasting a year, right? We need a round of applause for them who can keep with it.
Yep.
So they've gotten pretty good at Medicare. They've gotten pretty good at final expense. What's your advice to cross-selling to get into the annuity space? What would you tell them to prepare for? What would you tell them to study? What would you tell them to, how do they get in there, but not just get in there, but do it successfully and seamlessly?
Yeah, so the number one step is they have to become educated in how to have the conversation. See, a lot of agents, they're like, well, I'll just call one of these insurance carriers, I'll master their annuity product, and then I'm set to go. That's the easy part. You can call the sales desk of any insurance company. They'll spend all day with you on the phone telling you about the bells and whistles of their income rider or their cap rates and all that. That's the easy part, okay? It does take time to learn that. What the part that they need to understand is, how do you have the conversation? How do you open that door up? And that's done through education. And there's a lot of platforms such as yours that offer that education. We have an educational academy that's online that trains agents on how to have that, how to bring that up into conversation, and how to outreach back to your current client database, right? So number one, in my opinion, is to get the fundamentals of the conversation. Learn how to develop your own story and ask people to share their story. Learn those relationship tools, then learn some of the phrases that will help you bridge the problems that Medicare has. So we talk about what it doesn't cover, what the life insurance policy doesn't cover, and now here are some solutions. So it's 80% problem, 20% solution. The solutions are easy, especially now with all the software. I can run an income comparison chart, a MIGA comparison. Yeah. That's the easy part. The harder part is developing your story and how to have conversations and the relatability, learning certain analogies and ways to explain things. Because the products sell themselves. It's up to you to educate the client properly so they can understand the value of what the products can actually do.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate that. There are a lot of people who are bad storytellers, and they need to get better, right? I mean, you're in an appointment, and I've been in them where I'm thinking, okay, just the agent, right? Okay, wrap it up. There should be a balance. I like 80-20. 20% about me, 80% about them, right? Yep. I get the conversation going. I get them comfortable enough to share, but I want to hear from them. I want to know their goals and their aspirations and what, their survive number is, and then what's their thrive number, and how do I help them get there? So a lot of the storytelling that we do should be to set up for them.
Yeah.
So that they can give us the information that we need, right? Every question that you ask on the back end, there is a purpose, right? So if you're asking, oh, what Medicare plan are you on? Or how much are you bringing in on Social Security? Though every question is intentional. I'm not just asking to ask. I'm doing work on the back end, and I've been in a lot of appointments with agents where that doesn't come naturally to them. And right. So they'll sit there and they'll waste 30, 40, 50, an hour.
Right.
Getting nothing done but just being friends. And I'm not saying you can't be friends with your clients. Obviously, there should be a good give and take. But at the end of the day, you're there for a purpose, and they know it. They know you're there to help them. And so it's your job to be the professional in the room and to take control of the conversation and to get them to open up, but open up in a way that is useful so that you can help them.
100%. I mean, a lot of these agents, they'll go in there, they'll just talk product. And then they, at the end of the conversation, like, I wonder what they didn't buy. Oh, I don't know. Maybe they don't need income. Maybe they have a surplus in pension funds. I mean, who knows, right? You have to have that conversation. But at the same point, it's a fine line because you want to build rapport. You want to show that you care. You want to, create a friendship. But you also just don't want to sit around the tea table and have tea and then walk away. You have to develop practice, and this is all done through practice. Like, hey, how can I have a conversation with you, build rapport, and then slowly start relating it back to some of the problems of what the gaps in the policies that they have, and then present the solution. This is why I love telling people about why I do what I do, and I keep it brief, about 20% or so, because the most important person in the world is them, right? I keep it brief and I say, this is why I do what I do to help protect other families. And then I go right into, have you ever experienced a long-term care event yourself? Have you ever experienced a dramatic shift in the markets where it created financial stress before? I let them start talking. Then I ask very specific questions. What plans do you have in place now? Now I'm getting all this information gathering. So through the conversation, I know that maybe it's an income conversation I should have. Maybe it's a Roth conversion, RMD, whatever, right? I don't want to go into the conversation talking all about RMDs and find out they have nothing but Roths. That wouldn't be helpful, right? I've wasted my time. So
yeah, it's sometimes you have to have a shift. It's not so much as what do I say, it's what do I ask?
Yes. That's
to
correct.
Get that going, right? And I think that's where most agents miss, is they think too much about what they're going to say, how they're going to answer, instead of what questions can I ask so that I create a need. That's what we're looking for, right? They're looking for a solution because they have a problem, whether they know it or not. And more often than not, they do know it, because you know as well as I do. I don't care what their portfolio looks like. If they have less than $5 million, that getting that 30-year retirement is going to be tough on $250,000 in your 401k.
Yeah.
So they might be confident in front of you, but they've had thoughts at night or with their spouse to say, honey, what are we going to do? This is what my 401k is. This is what we're bringing on Social Security. We have a small pension, but we need X amount a month and we're short. And if we start supplementing with our 401k, if we took a hit in the market, could we afford it? Could we survive that? So it's your job to ask thought-provoking questions so that then the need is out on the table, and then here you are with a solution.
Yeah, and if you do it through a conversation aspect, then you're not coming off as a salesperson, right? If you just first sat down with them and said, how much can you afford to lose in your retirement? I have the perfect solution. That's not really going to work, right? That's going to be off-putting. But if you just talk about a conversation, share your story, have them talk about what they've experienced before, it helps formulate. That's why I love open-ended questions as well, because I get to gather all this data and I can start formulating how I'm going to phrase the next question.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Roy, I mean, you have an event coming up. Let's talk about that for a minute. What does that look like?
It's August 16th and 17th. It's the only event of its kind where it's 100% two-day class-focused annuity training. And we're going to have speakers from all over the country share their history, what they've done, how much business they write, how they write the business. And what's really unique about this, it's not an IMO event. I mean, most events that are sponsored such as this, it's offered by a particular recruiting group. We wanted to keep this non-biased. We have sponsors, of course, because it's an event. But the fun part about this is that we have agents from all over the country, different contracts, different backgrounds, everything, coming together collectively to learn. And we're going to grow this event. This year, we're going to keeping it intentionally small for basically less than 100 people on purpose, because we want that classroom vibe and that style, right? Next year, we'll probably do 500, and then we're going to grow it to over 1,000 and make it a very large event. But the whole point of this annuityproducers.com that we created is to give educational resources to clients, because right now it's very hard to get any coaching or mentorship about the annuity sales process. And so we wanted to make it very easy and accessible and say, hey, look, this is how we've grown our agency to over $100 million. And we didn't do it overnight. Took a lot of time, and we're still learning, but these are the processes that work for us. And then we have another group of agents that, hey, this is how I write 30 or 40 million in personal production. This is my style, right? Because everybody's style is different. So we have this collectiveness of different styles to help these agents actually understand the fundamentals. And a lot of the talking up there that I'm going to be doing is all about storytelling, right? We have some other people about how to do a financial fact finder, how to shop the cases, how to design an annuity case. All that's great stuff. But the most important thing is, like, here are the most common objections. Here's how you overcome them. Here's how you tell your story. This is what works and this is what doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Over here at Annuity Fundamentals, we try and do the same thing. We are purely fundamentals. How do we get into the conversation? What questions do I ask? And so your event and you said it was August. What were the dates again? August
16th and 17th. It's a 2 full-day event. It's downtown Austin, and we chose Austin because, one, we live close to it. We don't want to drive anywhere. And then secondly, it's a place that people want to come to. Like, a lot of people want to check out Austin. And, for a big city, it's actually relatively small, but it's clean and it's safe and it's cool. There's a lot of fun stuff there. So we want to make this a very fun event, very interactive. Agents are going to be raising their hand. It's not going to be like one of these giant events where, you can't raise your hand or, interact by any means.
No, we have full plans on being there, so we're excited to be there. So we're wanting you, and you can also go to annuityproducers.com and check out Roy and his team. He's got quite a program, and we're all here for the same purposes. He also instructs and helps you how to get better with annuities. So do we at Annuity Fundamentals. At the end, we want you to know that there are people who want to help you. Yep. We've both been there when we're starting out thinking, how am I going to make this work? So surround yourself with good people. Roy is good people, right? So we want to learn from him. I'm excited for your event. Hopefully we can have you back on soon. I appreciate you being on with us with Annuity Fundamentals.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're excited to see you next month. Thank you so much, Roy. And anything else that you'd like to add before we take off?
I would just encourage agents to actually take a deeper look at the educational resources that are available. If you look at both of us on this call today, right, we're here trying to add value, trying to increase your success because it's very rewarding. If we can make a small impact and help one agent help change the lives of hundreds of clients and they change their own lives financially, that's totally worth it to us, right? So you should think bigger and look at getting into the annuity space if you're selling life insurance or Medicare only, because it can diversify your income, help your clients out, and ultimately, it's a very rewarding career.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Roy, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks.